This video will show you how to create a custom mod for Melody Mania by using C# code. Therefore, you should already have basic experience with an IDE such as Visual Studio Code and with the C# language. If you use Visual Studio Code, then make sure you have the C# Dev Kit extension installed for proper IDE support. Let's dive in. First, we need to create a new mod. Therefore, open the in-game console via F7, then run the command mod.create. The command created several files in a new folder for us. Let's open the new mod folder in Visual Studio Code. The created files already contain some example code and comments. Feel free to pause the video and take your time to study the files. The editor config file and the gitignore file are only relevant to your code editor, respectively to Git version control. But they are not relevant to Melody Mania's mod system, so you can leave these files as is. The mod info file contains a short description about the mod. Players in the game can read this before enabling the mod to understand what it does. Besides this, the mod info file names dependencies that are needed for the mod to function properly. More on this later. The .cs project file contains information about the C# project, notably about referenced libraries. Your IDE uses it to find available symbols. This way, Visual Studio Code can assist you with code completion, error markers, and so on. The mod settings class represents the persisted configuration of the mod. Saving and loading this is done by the game's mod system. We only declare the fields and the UI controls to edit them. If your mod does not need any settings, then you can simply remove this class. The lifecycle class has methods that are called when the mod is loaded, respectively when the mod is disabled. Finally, the scene mod class has a method that is called when entering a scene. The example code uses it to create a Unity mono behavior. Note that the order in which classes are loaded is relevant to the game's mod system. This is why each file is named accordingly with a number prefix. For example, the mod settings file has a lower number prefix because other classes depend on it. Now we are ready to write our own mod code. The goal of our mod is simple. It should show a message on keyboard input. Therefore, we will first adapt the code of the scene mod. Let's try it out. Great! There is an option to automatically reload a mod on code changes. This will use the updated code the next time when the corresponding mod interface method is called. In the case of our scene mod, this means that the updated code is used the next time a scene is loaded. To debug your mod, you can use the in-game console. It will show compiler errors if something went wrong. Make sure to disable other mods during development to only see relevant messages for the mod that is currently being worked on. Now let's make the keyboard button configurable. Therefore, we can change the mod settings. The mod settings can be injected in our scene mod. Under the hood, the game uses a dependency injection library to wire things up. This means you can use the inject annotation to get an instance of certain objects in your class. Here is another example of the dependency injection mechanism. We want to reference the current UI document to add a button. Therefore, we first inspect the current UI structure via console command ui.inspect. An alternative command would be ui.hierarchy. This copies the full UI structure to your clipboard so you can take a detailed look at it in your favorite text editor. After finding a good place within the current UI structure, we can add our new button. Let's now take a closer look to the fields, required assemblies, and required types in the modinfo file. These are relevant when you encounter an error message because some third-party library class could not be loaded at runtime. In this case, you might need to explicitly specify the library in your modinfo file. The reason is that the game does not expose the whole app domain to your mod for performance reasons. In Visual Studio Code, you can navigate to the definition of the problematic class to find in which assembly it is stored. Then add an entry for this assembly under Required Assemblies in the modinfo file. There is only one exception to this approach. Missing classes from the standard library MS Core Lib or System must instead be listed individually under required types. We just developed our first scene mod. Hooray! But there are much more mod interfaces that you can implement to change the game's behavior. Available mod interfaces are listed by the console command mod.interfaces. You now know the basics of modding in Melody Mania. From here, you can dive deeper. For example, take a look at the repository on GitHub to learn more about the code structure and what is available for your own mod. Happy hacking!